Well, an upstart candidate has picked a fight with the new entry, who's the old entry. This ought to be pretty good tonight. Welcome into My State of Mind. I am Dan York. What a beautiful summer day and evening it was and is and shall be. And we are now right into those 2 months where you just want the calendar to slow down, don't you? And just soak up every summer day. I hope that you'll still make a point to make an appointment to watch the Dan York Show, State of Mind, even though the weather outside is so beautiful. So if you missed 7:30, remember, you can catch it at 11:30. And, of course, every episode is online at WPRI.com. And we post that right after the first showing, so you have no excuses not to check in and see what's going on. And there's so much going on during this political season. Brett Smiley is my guest. I think this is probably the third time he's appeared here, and I credit him for being available to answer the questions. He's got some interesting points of view on the mayoralty. He's had a fascinating television commercial that's gotten a lot of buzz, and I'm going to ask him some questions about that. And now, since Buddy Cianci is in the race, he's picking the first fight with him, and so we'll talk about it in our guest segment with Brett. First, though, let's go to the rundown and check out what's going on. Yeah, these were two very big decisions by the United States Supreme Court today. Right here at home, the GOP gubernatorial candidates seem to be acting out a whole lot more than the Democrats at this point. The Providence Journal, speaking of acting out, on its editorial page is picking an old fight with Buddy Cianci. We'll ask you whether or not they still have the juice to make that work. And speaking of the Journal, a story in it today with the old informant from Plunderdome thinking he's going to, write his new movie sequel? I don't understand what he's doing. And yes, today the pool got open, and of course everybody gets into the act, whether they deserve to or not. Let us go and dig into our rundown and break it down. Yes, these were two very big decisions by the United States Supreme Court today. Why don't we handle them one by one, if that's okay with you? The Washington Post headline today says, Supreme Court sides with employers over birth control mandate. This is about the Hobby Lobby, a family-owned business that says, look, you know what? We don't want to provide contraceptive coverage for our employees because we don't believe in it. CBS has the outline.
The Supreme Court ruled some for-profit companies are not required to provide contraception coverage to the employees. The decision came in a case brought by David and Barbara Green, the owners of the arts and crafts store Hobby Lobby. The evangelical Christian couple argued the Affordable Care Act requirement their company provide free birth control coverage violated their religious beliefs.
The Supreme Court decided that Americans don't give up their religious freedom just because they open a family business.
What we saw today was 5 male justices rule that discrimination specifically against women is not discrimination in their book.
While the Obama administration argued that birth control is essential to women's health, the majority of justices suggested that the government could pay for the coverage itself.
A very interesting dynamic here. There's also a discussion about what kind of corporation can kind of have a personality. I have a company, it's called DICOM LLC, Dan York Communications, and I do business with it, but I'm a sole proprietor and I have no employees, so I don't lose my disposition and personality when I have my LLC, right? The Hobby Lobby is a family-owned business. There are no other investors in it that I can tell, and so they still feel, even though they're larger, not larger than I am, that they can have their own personal touch and philosophy. What gets interesting is as the corporations get larger and become more public or multi-investor, all of a sudden now that personality is not necessarily okay in the justice system. It's very interesting. We'll start to see now which companies actually can take advantage of this decision by the Supreme Court and which can't. The second decision they made today was really fascinating as well, and it impacts right here in Rhode Island. Here's the headline. Supreme Court ruling allows some public workers to opt out of union fees. It wasn't too long ago, back in the fall of last year, that we talked a lot about daycare workers wanting to unionize, right? Around here, I think that they're entrepreneurs. I think they're small businesses. But the SEIU, the Service Employees International Union here, grabbed a hold of this and ran with it, and the legislature approved a bill that allowed the daycare workers to vote on whether or not to unionize, and they did overwhelmingly. This decision from an Illinois case involving daycare workers, home daycare workers, came down and said, you know what, if somebody doesn't want to participate and pay the dues in this line of work, they don't have to. It's a small right-to-work decision, not a large one, but a small one. And right-to-work means that you have the right to work without having to pay union dues to somebody in order to be able to do your trade or your labor. What's going to be fascinating here is whether or not the Chafee administration puts the brakes on ongoing negotiations with the SEIU for improved benefits to these daycare workers paid through the subsidies that come to the customers. Do you follow that? The Rhode Island Center for Freedom and Prosperity's Justin Katz was on the radio with me today reflecting on this.
We're hoping that actually the executive branch will do the right thing here and say this is now up in the air. The court has ruled that these are not public employees. The law says they are not, and therefore the union rules generally don't apply as they would to public employees. Legal action would be less preferable. If it comes to it and the state just goes forward, which is it'll just take one child care provider citing Harris v. Quinn from the Supreme Court saying, look, I'm not paying, and that should undo the mandatory service charges to non-union members.
Frankly, I think the vote is now moot, because if you didn't have the information that people could actually back out and not pay their dues, you may not have voted yes for this if you're a daycare worker. Follow this case. This is fresh off the press, and we'll have lots of tentacles here in Rhode Island. Next item on my rundown this evening, the right is fighting. Yeah, the press release was issued by Ken Block, who is a GOP candidate for governor, versus Alan Fung, and the headline reads, Block calls out Fung for lying on Deepwater Wind. Long story short, this all germinated or stemmed from, whatever, the Dan York radio program on Friday, and Alan Fung said that Ken Block had been flip-flopping on Deepwater. Well, the Block campaign came out and said, well, you know what? He says he doesn't want anything to do with Deepwater. That's the windmill project that Don Carcieri, the former governor, started. In some ways, he's kind of written a legacy, or tried to, with that project that's not yet off the ground. So Fung is going, hey, Block's all about Deepwater. And Block's going, I might have liked Deepwater, but it's not my big thing. But hey, Alan, you got a lot of money from Deepwater, and you've been reaching out to Deepwater, and you're telling Dan you're not reaching out.
Look at the frank hypocrisy. I guess that's the best word I can use to describe what his campaign does. Because this guy took money in bucketfuls from Deepwater Wind and people who represent Deepwater Wind's interest. Now, who's more conflicted, or who's more of a fan of Deepwater? I might have said something about windmills at some point in time, because I think in general, alternative energy is not a bad thing to pursue.
Here's the thing I find interesting. Ken Block was getting to the point, with confidence in his polling data and the like, that he was focusing mostly on the Democratic candidates for governor. Alan Fung is still chipping away at him, and it seems like Ken Block is now in a nose-to-nose battle with his direct primary opponent. So whatever Alan Fung is doing, lying or otherwise, according to the Block campaign, he's got Block focused on him, which, for a guy who reportedly was trailing in whatever poll you could find, is probably better news. So stay tuned on this. These two guys will end up at the studio, and we'll have some conversations about this race before it's all over. Next item is the Pro-Joe versus Cianci. I don't know. They seem like the same old act, and as much as people are saying it is the same old act with Cianci, so too with the Providence Journal. Here's an excerpt from Ed Fitzpatrick's column, and Eddie, I think, actually had it right. He was kind of asking Cianci, whether or not he's trusted to run away all can be proud of. Will there be lingering concerns? This is attributed to the political science guy from Providence College. But what we didn't get a chance to post up for the television show due to a little miscommunication on my part. There's an editorial that Ed Acorn must have written on the editorial page today that says, the drawbacks of another Cianci administration hardly need to be enumerated. Good administrators would not want to ruin their reputations by associating with him, so the city would be poorly run. The odds are great he would again misuse his office. Businesses on the brink of investing in Providence would put their money elsewhere. State officials and charities trying to aid the capital city, which still faces significant financial challenges and serves many Rhode Island's neediest citizens, would not want to pour dollars down a rat hole of corruption. Topping the list would be the signal that such an administration would send about Rhode Island, making recovery terribly difficult. I got to tell you something. The Providence Journal better make some better arguments about current ideas that Buddy Cianci has, or it'll sound like a broken record and white noise on both sides. And here's my question. In 2014, how much juice does the Journal have to do a two-step on a candidate, whoever that happens to be? They better be cognizant of that as they move along. And what else do I have here for you? Cowboy Fridas, real quick. What the heck? What the heck? Did you see this headline today in the Providence Journal? Ex-witness vows to get him again? What is that? Tony Freitas was on the radio the other day. He's the chief witness in Plunder Dome. You know, the guy that got the 100, 200, 300, 400 from Frank Correnti in the whole Plunder Dome trial. But obviously he's looking for a movie sequel of some kind. Listen to him.
There's a lot. The files, you got to understand, 123 hours, 176 tapes. There's a lot on the files. There are other people that could come out and bring up things of the past that could come back and haunt them.
Hey, you know what? Those files are not your files, Tony. So he's Cowboy Freitas. He's going to be a one-man band against Cianci. This Cianci thing is becoming a circus on all sides of the aisle. By the way, Brett Smiley, my guest, has some things to say about the Cianci campaign as well. Oh, man. I mean, I don't know how much the media ought to be paying attention to Tony Freitas, flailing like that. And lastly, the pool got open. The Davy Lou's pool got open. So many days and nights on radio and television here arguing that pool ought to be open. This is what it used to look like. An embarrassment that sucker was closed and destined to be cemented over through the great on-the-ground help by, Davian Sanchez and some community organizers, Sanchez, a city councilor, and others. They convinced the powers that be at City Hall to flip that decision. Today, here's a flavor of some pictures of what the celebration was like. The kids are smiling. The pool was open by 1 o'clock. And, of course, the politicians jump in, literally. Gina Raimondo jumped in with Davian Sanchez, and while I appreciate her enthusiasm for it, here's my question, one with the wet dress. Where were you? Where were you when we were asking for this? Nowhere. So guess what? The Ciancis of the world are not the only political show people around this joint. Brett Smiley when we come back. Stay with us. There's going to be a lot of candidates rolling through now as the season is on, baby, here. July and August, right through the primary, and then, of course, the general. Here's the headline that's got our attention, at least for this segment. Smiley Cianci already trading jabs. This young man has no compunction to say what he thinks and has been pretty firm on some concepts of got to know a guy and all that kind of stuff. Welcome back, Brett.
Thanks very much.
We'll talk about your very creative TV ad in the next segment if we can, but what's your point on Cianci?
I think we have worked very hard over the last 12 years for basically honest and ethical government. People haven't been buying jobs. We've really tried to move the reputation of the city forward. And the point is we don't want to go backwards.
I don't believe that. I think the Tavares administration, by and large, has been as close to honest as we could get in City Hall. Cicilline was running the same garbage that Cianci was running. We just had a hangover from Plunder Dome, and nobody wanted to call him on it. Now, we could have that conversation at some juncture.
Right.
But do you disagree with me?
I do.
Oh, God. I mean, my God. David Cicilline has more garbage in his administration when it comes to the kind of patronage and nasty stuff. But you know what? I won't distract you from your point. Can we footnote that that's a debate for you and me at a later date?
Absolutely. I look forward to having it.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we need to continue to move forward. We've already seen twice where we've had developers walk away from the 195 land because of uncertainty over the tax environment. We've heard from economic development professionals around the country that this would be a disincentive to investment. I don't think we need to give yet another reason to not want to come do business in Providence. We know we have serious struggles. We know we have real challenges. Our taxes are disproportionately high. We've got some looming financial challenges. So the last thing we need is to continue this reputation that you need to know a guy to get something done in Providence.
So you asked for a debate on values, whatever?
On ethics, good government, and the cost of corruption.
So here's what he said, because he's always quick on his feet, right? Here's what Buddy said in reaction to Brett's request late last week.
Mr. Smiley has to gain that nomination on September 9th. I'll be very happy to debate him after that when he secures the nomination, if he does. And perhaps we could pick a venue right now. Perhaps we could do it at his father-in-law's nightclub, the Foxy Lady.
Is that accurate?
So my deceased father-in-law was a part owner of the Foxy Lady. This is my husband's father. And I think the good news is that it took 48 hours for us to see the real Buddy come out again. He had declared 2 days earlier. He'd already taken the low road, tried to drag a dead relative through the mud, and I'm happy to debate him anywhere. That's exactly the problem, because it's not just that I think the reputation of Providence could be damaged, but that he's shown no contrition for it. He's tried to downplay, tried to minimize, said this was some guy down the hall that took a C note. It's far more serious than that, and if there's no act of contrition, if there's no actual regret, how can we feel any confidence that things are going to be different this time?
So you take the bait and end up at the Foxy Lady with him, if that's the only place he'll do this?
Well, you know, if we end up there, you can know who's going to get distracted and who's not.
That's good. Did you practice that one, or did that just come off the top of your head?
No, it's coming right off the top of my head.
That's pretty. Did you get that? Think about that one. All right, you'll get it in the second segment if you didn't get it in the first segment. But what of the strategy, as you have a primary here that you got to fix on and you got to win, trying to pick up, now that he's declared as an independent, picking a fight on whatever the matter happens to be with a general election possible candidate? You looking past something here?
No, I mean, I'll tell you, I spoke out, and I spoke out loudly because I was offended. I think it's a bad decision for the future of Providence. From what I've heard since then, is that a lot of my friends and neighbors feel the same way. And what we want to make sure, as a Democrat, as a proud Democrat, that we nominate the right Democratic nominee to ensure that he doesn't get elected. And so my job is to, one, speak out about what I believe is right and wrong, but then also to make the case that we need to make sure we have the best, strongest, most effective nominee to be able to go toe-to-toe with Buddy Cianci to make sure he doesn't get reelected.
All right. If you didn't get that little quip, you will when we come back. Stay with us. Brett Smiley is my guest. He is a candidate for mayor in Providence, a Democrat, and he's got all sorts of programs and policies. This one is school success, achievement for all. He's been controversial in terms of his suggestion that we ought to use some fees for gun registration and the like to clean up the streets. We've covered a bunch of that stuff, and we've got all of those shows online if you want to see. But this is the commercial that had a lot of people talking. Let's take a look at it.
I'm the kind of guy who's always finished whatever I've started.
Brett planned the best vacation we've ever had.
Brett is the most organized person I've ever met. Who else would propose marriage on a PowerPoint presentation?
I have a plan for public education, job creation. My plan for public safety taxes handguns, like we tax cigarettes.
Wow, that's a big idea. Are you excited about it?
Yes. I have a plan for public transportation, for economic development, plan for our environment.
Good night, Brett.
Look, A for creativity. I have not often laughed out loud at a commercial. I laughed out loud, so congratulations for that one.
Thank you.
You deadpanning your cerebral nature and all of that was too funny. But you guys made kind of a big deal about the national attention the ad got. And even though it was creative and funny and cerebral, that's not why it got national attention. It got national attention because you were kneeling down, replicating a "Will you marry me" to your husband. Talk to me. I wish we had 4 hours, not 4 minutes, to talk about this. If same-sex marriage is supposed to be now nonchalant, part of the fabric, no big deal, why was your campaign making such a big deal over the idea that you got national attention? Because you know that you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, although in all sincerity, when we were making the ad, we didn't flinch twice. We didn't put that in there for shock value. We did not. We wanted to put it in there casually. It fits within the story of the commercial. It fits within the story of my life. My husband and I have both been out for a long time. It's just part of who we are. It's not a big deal. Now, I will say, once it got national press, then we continued to tell the story because that's good for the campaign and it's been great for us. Even though you're comfortable in your own shoes and you roll through references to your husband as if any heterosexual couple would, I get your comfort zone, but you couldn't have put that spot with somebody going, well, this'll be, come on, this'll be. My point is, I'm not blaming or criticizing. I'm actually wondering out loud about how this whole thing finally is going to even out and work, meaning same-sex marriage, acceptance of the culture that way. I was disappointed that your campaign made a big deal that national gay organizations are making a big deal about it. Let them do what they have to do, but I felt like you were playing it hard for reasons that belie your own regular nonchalance about it. Does it make any sense to you? Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and honestly, I think the answer is that I'm also still running a campaign, and I want to get elected, and so the press that this ad got, which has been incredible, has helped more people see it online for free, basically. It's helped people from around the country sign on and like our Facebook page and go to the website.
You getting a lot of that national, oh, I love it, thank you?
Yeah.
Kind of a champion of the cause type of stuff?
Well, I don't know, but, and again, it was, you have to believe me that it was not intended to be a trendsetter. When it happened, we took advantage of it, but it was not premeditated.
All right. The point of the ad, though, is that you're a wonk. Right?
Right.
You're a wonk.
I
Now,
mean,
I've made you laugh a couple times during the show.
You have, but I've come on your show and my staff have said, you need to lighten up a little bit.
Right.
And so,
right.
Being able to make a joke about it and show that, I think I'm funny, that to have a little bit of sense of humor about it has been good and helpful.
Well, I thought on that level, it was maybe the most creative. Between Gina's ad running around with the family and the bike,
yeah, I like that,
and that ad, probably the two best ads of the season. 30 seconds on what the new issue is this week.
The new issue this week is our school success plan. We need serious answers to our problems in our public schools. The majority of our kids aren't getting a proper education. About 18 pages of details here of what we need to do. It's bold but practical. It's visionary and comprehensive. It took a lot of work. We're really proud of it. I would encourage everyone to read it.
When we can, we'll bring some of the Democrats together around this table for a little bit of a casual debate. You'll take that on, right?
Absolutely.
And if you get off this radio thing, we could spend a lot of time on a lot of things.
Well, I think we'll all take that plunge together.
All right.
All right.
Good to see you, man.
Nice to see you,
too.
too.
All right, your state of mind, we come back. Anything we say here, we want to know what you think. It's just as important. Your state of mind, 228-1886, voicemail, email, stateofmind@myritv.com, Facebook, and tweet at me. Don't forget the E or it won't go through. Here's a voicemail.
Brings back good memories, Camp Yago. Used to go there like 50 years ago with the Boy Scouts in East Providence and get tied to a tree, and they'd spray shaving cream all over you. And you'd be out there till the Scoutmaster woke up in the morning. Oh, what a time.
Memories. That's from Friday night, 99 years at Yago. We'll see you tomorrow on the radio at noon on WPR. I'm back here at 7:30. Bye.